Ladies and gentlemen, today I have a very special video lined up for you because I'm going to be talking about what my full-time resale business on Amazon and eBay actually earned in 2020. Now this has actually been maybe my most requested video that I have gotten. I do a lot of talking about the kind of stuff that I'm selling, the kind of money that I am spending, and I think people are interested to know what the actual result of all of that work is. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what I have spent and what I have earned in various places and platforms, but I do want to give a couple of disclaimers. The first is that if you are a beginning reseller and you know that you're particularly prone to compare yourself to people who are farther along than you, I'm going to say something that I never say in my videos, and that is just go ahead and click off this one now. That is not the influence that I want to have in people's lives. I'm sure YouTube somewhere over here or over here has given you plenty of suggestions of great other videos. Please pick one from Phoenix Resale that might be a little bit more healthy for your psyche. I know that's something that I have personally struggled with, and I don't want to be the guy pushing people in the wrong direction. For everyone who's still here, I hope that this video will do one of two things. One is either motivate you as to what is really possible as a rookie or beginning reseller. This is my first full year of reselling full-time. I did it part-time before that, and I'm honestly really proud of the numbers that I have been able to come up with. Or maybe if you're somebody who is much farther along in your journey than I am, you can look at my numbers, chuckle to yourself, and say, that's really cute, Caleb, let me know when you 10x that. And the second disclaimer is that I did recently lose a lot of my bookkeeping data. That's kind of a story for another day, but I really wanted to make this video, so I did go to the trouble of doing a whole lot of adding and rustling up some numbers on various platforms and spreadsheets and reports. But if some of the fee calculations and the gross versus net numbers seem a little confusing, you'll just have to take my word for it because I did lose a little bit of that, but trust me, it does check out. So jumping into some initial numbers here right off the bat, I'm going to tell you a lot of my gross stuff first, just like the total numbers of sales and expenditures, and then towards the end I'll get into what I actually netted after fees and taxes and all that good stuff. So total gross revenue from both Amazon and eBay for total sales before fees are taken out and everything like that is $468,378. This was an absolutely banner year 2020 for a lot of kinds of resellers, particularly video game resellers. I think most of us did really well because of the increased demand for a lot of our inventory. There was just tons of opportunity for local deals and retail arbitrage and online arbitrage, and that's all stuff that I specialize in. So 2020 was honestly a really good year. The total amount that I spent this year on supplies and goods and services and everything like that was $241,057, which absolutely blows my mind, because to let you guys in on something, at the start of 2020, end of 2019, I had only been reselling full-time for a few months. I went back in my statements in preparation for this video, and I had $5,000 and some change in my bank account. So that should go to show you a little bit what a crazy growth year this was in terms of total revenue and spending and everything, that I could start out with $5,000. And I also, as a business principle, make a habit of not leveraging debt. I don't have any outstanding debt right now. So the fact that I got from having $5,000 in my account to somehow ending up spending $241,000, mind blown. Crazy growth year. All right, so I somehow managed to spend $241,000 on my resale business this year. What the heck did that all go to? Well, I've run some of the numbers on that as well, have some figures here for you. I had a few large one-time expenses this year that I wanted to share because my net numbers at the end would have been a bit higher, except that this was a year for significant reinvestment. So one of the things that I bought was the lifetime membership of my listing software, Reseller. That was $700. That's not something that I recommend doing initially, but I've been using that software for over a year. I know I'm not gonna stop anytime soon, so that was a really solid value, and now I'm not paying the $34 a month for that anymore. I also bought a computer for north of $2,000. The reason for that is replacing a computer is a big headache. I don't want to have to do that again for the next 8 to 10 years. So I fronted a lot of cash for this one in order to save myself that time expenditure later on down the road. I also built and bought a shed that is in the back. You guys probably know my famous second shed that's back there. Ended up spending around, I think, $1,800 on that, if my memory serves. As well as I bought a bunch of like shelving and storage stuff this year for an inventory storage system that's a little bit more robust. I think that probably ran me in the neighborhood of $300. I was also able to tally up a few other categorical expenses and see how much overall I spent at a certain place by doing some fancy like sorting and everything with the book side. So one of those expenses was AliExpress. I ended up spending $675 there. That's how I get all of my replacement video game accessories, so like styluses or battery covers or cords, things like that. I'll usually go to AliExpress and buy them in bulk. I also on Amazon, that's where I get a lot of my supplies, shipping stuff, and every once in a while I'll get some inventory on there as well. I spent $2,898. As you guys know, I do a whole lot of sourcing at pawn shops. I couldn't unfortunately calculate all of the money that I spent on all pawn shops because they were all designated differently. They all have different titles and stuff like that. But I did calculate that at Cash America alone, I spent $3,459 this year. And then at Dan's, which is probably the second largest chain that I go to, I spent $2,414. Then this number really surprised me. Game Exchange, which is a local video game store chain, well, a regional chain. I actually spent $9,260 at this year, which is definitely more than I expected, especially given that that is more than Cash America and Dan's combined. Although when I think back, I think a lot of that was in the spring. Actually, a lot of these really peaked in the spring because prices for video games and consoles were so insane on Amazon. I actually was going into game exchanges and I would buy sometimes like 12 PS3s at a time because I was buying them for like 90 bucks a piece and then flipping them for $250 gross on Amazon. This year was a crazy year. Another similar story to that was towards the beginning of lockdown, Wii's were incredibly spiked. So I was selling Wii's with Wii Sports for $150, sometimes even up to north of $200, which is absolutely insane. Pre-pandemic, they sold for like maybe 90 to 100. So I went to a pawn shop chain that is near me. I knew that they had an overstock of Wii's. I bought like 12 of them all at once for $20 a piece. I got them to swing me a deal because I did buy them in bulk and then sold them all that week. I had all of like the necessary replacement caps and everything from AliExpress, like I said earlier, was able to get them all out the door within a week for $150 plus gross a piece. I mean, spring was absolutely nuts. So anyway, that's where a lot of that game exchange money went. At Walmart, I ended up spending $14,789. Normally, I'm not huge on the retail arbitrage side, but again, this spring there was so much opportunity, mostly in video games, that I did end up spending a lot there, and a lot at Target as well at $8,535 there. But the big kahuna that a lot of you guys are probably itching to know if you follow my channel a lot is GameStop, because as you know, I buy a ton of my inventory from GameStop when they have big blowout sales. And this year, the total that I spent there was $69,311. To some of you, this may not come as a huge shock given that just this last month alone, I spent over $11,000, but that number was kind of staggering to me. GameStop, if you somehow end up seeing this video, you're welcome and please sponsor me. And if any of you guys are wondering why GameStop is still in business despite some of their questionable business practices as well, you may be looking at the reason right here. But anyway, enough tooting my own horn with, you know, all the money I've spent. Although I guess that's kind of the purpose of this entire video. But we're gonna dive into some platform specific figures now. Let's head on over to eBay. Unfortunately, eBay is kind of well known for not being the best about giving you super useful figures because their data doesn't go back all that far, but I did go back and do some adding from their monthly reports, and my overall eBay sales gross this year was $65,000. 325. Again, they were super strong in the spring. There was all kinds of opportunity. I was doing a lot of sales back then. From like September to December, it ended up stabilizing out at pretty steadily 2,000 to 3,000 a month. And again, those are gross numbers. That's not what I'm actually taking home in my pocket. Amazon is where things really start to get exciting. So my total gross sales on Amazon were just shy of 400,000 gross for this year. I had a couple people, when I briefly mentioned in passing in previous videos, that were heavily doubting whether it was actually possible. I said that I was on pace to do over 300,000 in sales on Amazon this year in video games. A few people were like, no way, this dude's full of it, that's not possible. Which in the first place is very small-minded. Video games is an absolutely massive industry. To believe that one couldn't possibly do 300, anyway, silly comments, but what I actually ended up doing was $397,062 in gross Amazon sales. The total units that I sold, I actually was really proud of as well this year, was 7,474 units, which is a number that I personally am just really proud of because I'm kind of a one-man operation over here, except on the YouTube side. I do have an editor there, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, on the resale side, being able to move that number of units, just kind of operating on my own, is something that I really am very proud of. The average sale price per unit on Amazon was $53.66. I think that came from the fact that I sold so many consoles this year, as I was talking about earlier, so you guys kind of have an idea of where that came from. The last small part of the gross revenue equation is technically YouTube. I understand that's not really a part of my resale business proper. I didn't bother to take it out of the figures because this year it pretty much ended up being a wash. I ended up grossing $5,991 from YouTube. That's just AdSense revenue. The reason that it ended up being a wash is, one, because of just expenses of making the videos. You have the time that I'm putting into it, which isn't really an expense, but most notably the PS5 and Xbox giveaway video ended up costing, I think, in the neighborhood of $1,400 or $1,500. Plus I had, I would guess, 10 to 15 videos edited by my editor, which, if you're getting someone who actually knows what they're doing, is definitely an estimable expense that ended up just about canceling out the revenue that I gained from YouTube this year. And some of you may be thinking to yourself, why in the world would you pay someone to help you out when in reality it negates all of your income from that revenue source? And the reason is, I think it really helped me to build my channel. It allowed me to put out more videos and capitalize on building some momentum with subscribers there, and also freed my time up to put more time into the resale business, which is what really is making the money for me this year. So anyway, all that said, Amazon and eBay are really basically the only platforms that I sell on. I do some local deals, but those are primarily trades and sometimes purchases. So there wasn't a whole lot of like cash sales that was going on there, maybe a few thousand throughout the whole year. But anyway, now that we've talked about the gross sales on each platform and how much I spent, let's talk about how much money I had coming in total. So the total amount of money that actually hit my bank account, which is basically my gross sales on each platform minus the fees and shipping that they might automatically take out, was $350,044, which, given that I spent $241,000, leaves me a gross profit of $108,986. Now, that is still pre-tax. I take out money every month in estimation for how much I'm going to have to pay in taxes. I take out 30%, which is very conservative. Normally I end up getting a decent amount of that back, but after taking out that 30%, that leaves me with a net profit after everything of money that is actually staying in my pocket from my business of $76,290 for 2020, which is a number that, like, I'm just so proud of. I don't know, my words are kind of failing me right now, because before starting this journey, I was making substantially less than that at a 9-to-5 job that I really hated. So the fact that I was able to get there this year, it means so much to me, because I like my life and what I do so much more now. I don't recommend full-time resale for everybody because a lot of people love their jobs. And it definitely, like, I work way more hours now, like not even close, than when I was at my 9 to 5. But I'm just really proud of where I've been able to come. My wife and I did take a pretty modest salary out of that 76 that we use to live on. It doesn't cover a whole lot more than just our basic expenses and some minor splurges here and there. We're just very focused right now on keeping as much money in the business as we possibly can. Honestly, not investing a ton. I think that's something that this next year is going to bring a lot more of, hopefully. But you guys know, in this business, cash is king. And I really want to be in a financial position where if that video game store closes down, or if that $30,000 collection comes onto the market, I can be at a point where I say, yep, I'll take it, here's the cash. And I think if there's anything to be learned from this whole exercise, it's just the importance of understanding the difference between gross and net numbers. I think especially in the e-commerce world that's filled with fake gurus and Instagram flexers, it's so easy to see people online being like, oh, you know, I just made $400,000 on my Amazon business this year. But like, as you guys can see from looking at these numbers, there's a big difference between my net numbers, which are like the flashy, like glamour metrics of sales, and what I'm actually taking home. Don't get me wrong, like I said, I'm super proud of what I'm actually taking home, but it's a very different picture than the flashy gross sales. Anyways, I hope you guys gained something of value from this video. It's not something that I've seen a ton of resellers do this in depth. If you liked it, if you benefited from it, please let me know in the form of, comments, liking the video, subscribing to the channel, hitting the bell. You guys know all the traditional ways. If so, I'll try to do more of these kinds of financial, like analytical videos in the future if they are actually helpful for the community. If it's just kind of cringy and tacky, then I'll stay away from it in the future. But the biggest reason that I did want to make this video is I just think it's so important, especially for people who are claiming to teach people how to make money online, to be open and transparent with their books. I hope that the biggest thing that separates me from, XYZ cringy guru that may even be advertising on this very video is just that level of financial transparency. Most of the time with those guys, you're not going to get the inside look on where they actually make money, because usually it's going to be on course sales. I'm getting on a tangent now. I just really deeply believe in the importance of financial transparency for people in the e-commerce space. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully I didn't make you cringe too hard, and until next time, I will catch you all on the flip.